Yesterday, we started to explore again the 5 hindrances. This time, we explore in a greater details. Yesterday, I dived in deeper into the third hindrance, dullness and drowsiness. We have read through what kind of a remedy that we can use to counter dullness and drowsiness. And some of us also share our own experiences. Like Sai Kiang and also Choi Kwan, who mentioned of taking a 15 minutes afternoon naps. That would also help. We covered a little bit about when Venerable Mahamoggallana gets drowsy. Yeah, just a quick info. Venerable Mahamoggallana is the chief disciple, one of the chief disciples of the Buddha, who is the foremost in psychic power. And the other one is the other chief disciple would be Venerable Sariputta, who is the foremost in wisdom. If you want to know more about all these great disciples, you can read the book called The Great Disciples of the Buddha. Okay. Today, I would like to cover this interesting way to look at laziness and also to counter complacency. The 5 threatening dangers. If a monk perceives these 5 threatening dangers, it is enough for him to live heedful, zealous, with a heart resolute to achieve the unachieved, to attain the unattained, to realize the unrealized. Which are these 5 dangers? Here, a monk reflects thus: I am now young, a youth, young in age, black hair, in the prime of youth, in the first phase of life. But the time will come when this body will be the grip of old age. But one who is overpowered by old age cannot easily contemplate on the teachings of the Buddha. It is not easy for him to live in the wilderness or a forest or jungle or in secluded dwellings. Before this undesirable condition, so unpleasant and disagreeable, approaches me, prior to that, let me master my energy for achieving the unachieved, for attaining the unattained, for realizing the unrealized, so that in the possession of that state, I shall live happily, even in old age. Yeah, but don't think that this one doesn't apply to those of you who are in your 50s, 60s, or 70s. You can still think of, let's say, a year from now, your condition might not be the same as your current condition. The fact that you can come up every morning to meditate and read the sutta, I think that says that probably old age hasn't, the true old age, when you are really cannot, when you are so bent, when you're walking, you see the auntie, there's even they can hardly be able to walk, from a very short distance. It would take them a long time. Whenever I see those auntie, I would feel really sad for them as well. Right? Compassion arises as well. Yeah. So while our conditions right now is still conducive to practice, thus you should contemplate this way. When you finally reach that stage, old age, you would not be able to practice the Dharma as easily as you are right now. Yeah. So this is applicable to everyone. The second danger Let's see. Okay, how about Sister Billy? Would you like to read?
Oh, number 2, right?
Yes.
Par 2. Oh, and further, monks, a monk reflects thus: I'm now free from sickness, free from disease. My digestive power functions smoothly. My constitution is not too cool, not too hot. It is balanced and fit for making effort. But a time will come when this body will be in the grip of sickness, and one who is sick cannot easily contemplate upon the teachings of the Buddha. It is not easy for him to live in the wilderness or a forest or jungle or in secluded dwellings. Before this undesirable condition, so unpleasant and disagreeable, approaches me, prior to that, let me master my energy for achieving the unachieved, for attaining the unattained, for realizing the unrealized, so that in the possession of that state, I shall live happily even in sickness.
Thanks, Billy. The second danger would be sickness of the body when you get ill. Now, while we are healthy, this is the best time actually to practice, meditate, and study the Dhamma. Why? We don't have to look so far away to the future when we get sick. Sometimes when I have stomach ache in the middle of meditation, it already affects my meditation. Yeah, so even more when we have some kind of a sickness in the future. It can be anything. Let's say a simple one like down with a cold or down with a fever. And now we are in the endemic. If, let's say, touch wood, any of us contract COVID-19, would you be able to meditate and practice? Probably not so easy. So this is one way to contemplate the danger of the future illness, future sickness. Like now we are in a healthy condition. This is the time. This is the perfect time to master up your strength. As the Sutta said, master my energy for achieving the unachieved, attaining the unattained, for realizing the unrealized. This is the second danger. The first one is old age. The second one is sickness. Let's take a look at the third danger. Billy, would you like to nominate someone to read?
Sister Saikya? Thank you.
Thank you. The third one, and further monks. A monk reflects us. Now there is an abundance of food, good harvest, easily obtainable is a meal of alms. It is easy to live on collected food and offerings, but a time will come when there will be a famine, a bad harvest, difficult to obtain will be a meal of alms. It will be difficult to live on collected food and offerings. And in a famine, people migrate to places where food is ample, and their habitations will be thronged and crowded. But in habitations thronged and crowded, one cannot easily contemplate upon the teachings of the Buddha. Before this undesirable condition, so unpleasant and disagreeable, approaches me, prior to that, let me master my energy for achieving the unachieved, for attaining the unattained, for realizing the unrealized, so that in the possession of that state, I shall live happily, even in the famine.
Thanks again. This is much more applicable during the Buddha's times, when famine is actually something that could happen in just a flash, you know. But in the Singapore's context, I hope none of us will ever reach this state of famine. Food is still easily obtainable for most of us, I would say. Yeah, and if you ever reach the state where it's not easy for you to get food, I feel like Singaporeans are still kind enough to offer you food if you are, let's say, if you are on the street and you're hungry, and then you go to some hawker, and then you try to approach people and then ask them to buy you food. I would say if you approach 10 people, there should be at least one that will kindly buy you a food. Yeah. So we have to be thankful that we're in Singapore with very kind people, Singaporeans. Yeah, so probably none of us will ever reach the state of famine, I hope. Yeah. But it's interesting to see this in the context of the Buddha's times. Yes, like it.
Yeah, but I think it cannot be too complacent, because Singapore, we don't produce our own food. We buy them. So there's one time when during COVID, there's a lockdown, people still rush for it. Your reasoning of people willing to give food is because they have the food. The source is not cut off. So if one day when other countries, they have famine, the crops, they don't have good harvest, they are not able to provide even for their own citizens. That's why our government now is trying to, let Singapore also produce some of our own food, and also turning to, the meat, right? They have this plant-based sauce. So we still can contemplate on, if in future there's a lockdown or the COVID situation get worse, then probably we might also face food difficulty, and not in our country having famine, but unable to obtain enough food for ourselves. Yeah.
Yes, that's a good point actually. I did not thought of that. The COVID situation where for some period we were probably difficult for us to import food from other countries. Yeah. We are probably lucky that it was a short period, but let's say it's prolonged to 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years, then it is possible that Singapore might face difficulty in obtaining food. So that's very good point. Like, thanks for bringing it up. Yeah. So we can contemplate it that way as well. It's not so far-fetched for Singapore to have this kind of difficulty as we have experienced before during COVID time. Okay, good point, good point. Thanks again. Okay, let's go to the fourth danger. So again, would you like to nominate the next person to read?
Sister Aikim. Okay. Can you take over? Thank you.
Yeah, the fourth one, right? Wait, let me adjust my monitor.
Okay. Do you want me to make it bigger?
No, okay, can, because it's the picture that is blocking.
Okay.
Okay. And further, monks, a monk reflects thus. Now people live in concord and amity, in friendly fellowship as mingled milk and water. and look at each other with friendly eyes. But there will come a time of danger, of unrest among the jungle tribes, when the country people mount their carts and drive away, and fear-stricken people move to a place of safety, and their habitations will be thronged and crowded. But in habitations, thronged and crowded, one cannot easily contemplate upon the teachings of the Buddha. But this undesirable condition, so unpleasant and disagreeable, approaches me. Prior to that, let me master my energy for achieving the unachieved, for attaining the unattained, for realizing the unrealized, so that in the possession of that state, I shall live happily even in time of danger. Thank you.
Thanks, IQ. Now, people live in concord and amity, friendly fellowship as mingled milk and water. We look at each other with friendly eyes. I think this is really true in Singapore right now. We are having a really good security. I think Singapore did a really good job in that. If you compare it to other countries, you recall some other countries are having riots, unrest in the citizens. Sister Tammy is not here today, but there were riots, and when there were riots, even when I read the news, I feel uneasy. How about the people living in there? How can they feel peaceful when there's a riot running around and they don't know whether they will get hurt or not? And in our neighboring countries, Southeast Asia, there is also a coup, if you recall. Yeah, I will not mention the country. There were a coup, then when I read the news, there was really horrible as well. It was everywhere in the news, just earlier this year. And not just the coup, some countries are even still having a war with each other. Some countries in the Middle East probably. And so while Singapore are still in a really good condition, it is conducive to practice. People are friendly with each other. This is the best time to practice. Yeah, let's not wait until, touch wood, hopefully it will never happen in Singapore, but we will never know for sure, because conditions are still here. When the conditions are not here anymore, anything could happen. So we should be grateful that Singapore is still in concord, and we should also contemplate that while Singapore is still peaceful and secure, this is a good time for me to practice right here and right now. Okay, that's for the fourth one. Let's go for the last one. Sister Akin, would you like to?
Sister Jolene, take over. Thanks.
Okay.
And further, monks, a monk reflects thus. Now the congregation of monks lives in a concord and amity, without quarrel, lives happily under the teaching. But a time will come when there will be a split in the congregation. And when the congregation is split, one cannot easily contemplate upon the teachings of the Buddha. It is not easy to live in the wilderness of a forest or a jungle, or in secluded dwellings. Before this undesirable condition, so unpleasant and disagreeable, approaches me, prior to that, let me master my energy for achieving the unachieved, for attaining the unattained, for realizing the unrealized, so that in the possession of that state, I shall live happily, even when the congregation is split.
Thanks, Julian. The Buddha predicted well on this one. After the Buddha passed away, the congregation immediately split into 18 schools, if you know the history of Buddhism. So one of the danger is has already happened. Let's not wait until all the 4 happens to you before you start to practice. I really like this sutta because it also helps me dispel my complacency. So what do you think? Do you have any questions or comments on this one?
Bro, if I may share.
Yes.
Mostly, I think this part touches me most on impermanence. So whether it's condition 1 to condition 5, it relates the impermanence of our surrounding that are prerequisites or maybe good conditions for practices, and not to take them for granted. And one of the, as an era of declining Buddhism, we will find that even the Sangha is getting lesser in the community, in the monastic community. Not like in the past, where you have a lot of, when you go to a temple or go to a monastery, you will see a lot of monastic. And even in Singapore myself, I witnesses groups of Sangha that had split opinion and they divided among themselves. It's quite sad to see that sometimes, but it happens. So as a practitioner, we value, we should value the Sangha community, support them. Not easy for them, I think, to practice in this very difficult environment. Yeah, so to the part 5 is very relevant in today's world of Buddhism. Even more so that even some of the very 我们叫做资深大师父, that means they have been practicing for a long time, even highlight this to us, that as practitioner, please uphold the values of Buddhism, whether you are lay follower or non-lay follower. So this is something I think as Buddhists, we could remind ourselves from time to time. Remember the teachings of our teacher, yeah, and carry it within our heart, whether we are not in a temple or not, or in a monastery or not. So I think the 5th part touches me the most at this stage, yeah. So that's my sharing, yeah.
Very well said. Thanks a lot, Sister Jolene. How about others? Would you like to, which of the 5 resonates with you? Any comments you'd like to add? Okay, if not, I'll just do a quick summary. 5 threatening dangers. First one is old age. Second is sickness. Third one is regarding with obtaining food. The 4th one is regarding security. We are still in a peaceful and live in concord. The 5th one is the split in the congregation. Yeah. If we contemplate these 5 factors, it will help us to dispel laziness, dispels complacency. With that, let's close with dedication. 愿消三障诸烦恼，愿得智慧真明了，普愿罪障悉消除，世世常行菩萨道。阿弥陀佛。Till we meet again, may we be guided by the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Have a non-complacent day ahead. Huh? Today is TBIF. Thank Buddha, it's Friday.
Today is Black Friday.
Black Friday. Any of you rush shopping?
Control your senses.
Yeah, that's true.
Look at your desire before you click.
One trick that I use, I delete all my credit cards information online. But yeah, also quick, we have sent you the book. It will arrive around Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay, thank you very much, Marcel.
Welcome. Thanks to Sai Kiang. Sai Kiang done the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Sajang.
Thank you, Marcel. Also.
Okay.
Take
thanks.
care, everybody.
Take care. See you guys.
Thank you,
Bye.
Brother Marcel and
Bye.
everybody. Bye-bye.